Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Right. Today, I've got a special guest, a long-term friend, one of the top attorneys in the state of Texas, if not the country. He is renowned as a phenomenal trial lawyer. His resume, his CV, and everything will be in the show notes. But for me, working with top trial attorneys in the country, I think this guy is in the upper 1%. So with that, I'd like to welcome Sean Lyons to this show. So Sean, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Awesome to be here.
Yeah. So we've been trying to get you on this. I think we've been trying to schedule this for 6 to 7 months, and you are just got a really demanding trial schedule. So before we get too far into your practice and some of the lessons and things that you're going to share with our members today, our audience today, could you tell me just briefly what was the motivation for you to become a lawyer? And, what was the inspiration? What was the origin story? What's the thing that got you to say, that's it, I want to be a trial attorney?
Yeah, there's kind of two answers that, so my father is a great trial lawyer. He's a real pathfinder in medical malpractice law here in Texas. And he's a great dad, wonderful guy. He's still my law partner. The firm is Lyons and Lyons. Because I rejoined him recently, but so he was a real model for me. And so the question was, why wouldn't I become a trial lawyer for a while there? Because I was so kind of hell bent and enjoying watching him. And I entertained all kinds of things. I tried to fight it in some ways during college, and then always kept going to law school as an option. But I liked writing. I was actually taking acting classes. I was studying psychology. I thought about even going into medicine, maybe, because I like sciences. But seeing all the things that the law provided, and most of all, probably the righting of wrongs, as corny as that sounds. I mean, I saw my father do it and get off on it, both professionally and during the civil rights period. He was a civil rights activist in San Antonio. I don't know. I just never got away from the fact that I would want to do something about things that I saw that I didn't like. To be an anti-bully, it became a personality that I was already exhibiting signs of as a younger person. So, the law just sort of ticked every box. I could perform, I could gamble a little, I could use strategic thinking, I could study the law. I was a bit of I was kind of a scholar mentality, and so but really what I couldn't get away from the most was it would give me an outlet to sort of take on bullies and right wrongs. That was kind of it for me. It was sort of a crossing out of other options. And when I get to law school, I went through the whole process again. Law school was tough at first, and I was wondering, why did I do this? But eventually kept coming back to sticking with it because I liked doing stuff about, things that I thought were wrong.
It's a fascinating thing to watch that there's a lot of lawyers that will take bad cases for the right reason, and they're usually emotional reasons, things that they think where somebody was greatly wrong. And there's a lot of lawyers that are very, very tight if this is not strong economic motivation for them to take the case, regardless of the wrong done to the plaintiff or the client. They're just not interested. So you've really been able to figure out a balance to that and work through a balance of that.
Just recently. And so we do a lot of work in both those areas. I mean, I'd say that most cases are medical malpractice cases. When we get a medical device case, it's huge. So it's almost just as much of what we do. And that's our focus. We do also other catastrophic injury cases. And I have throughout my career. I've done asbestos work and, dram shop cases, civil rights cases, but our bread and butter and what we do mostly here at Lyons and Lyons is medical malpractice and medical devices. And so around that time, I changed jobs and started to get to know you guys. And so the first lesson, I guess, was to try to really make time and schedule time with the family, to create some balance there, because I was going to burn out. I was not going to work well if I started getting a divorce and if I started being a terrible father. And I'd seen models of that too all around me, right? So I started looking back at how my father managed to be a good dad. and seeing some of the other ways he was doing that he wasn't maybe highlighting for me so much was that he did take care of himself and was there for us. And so I started, I learned, I guess, that big rock, little rock analogy that we all know. And that really hit home for me. And so that was kind of the first lesson, was to really schedule and create time for family, and put it on the calendar, block for it, get your staff to block for it, really prioritize it, make it a planned, scheduled thing to make sure you have balance in your life.
That's probably one of the more critical ones that I think a lot of young lawyers don't appreciate until they get to the point that you were at, where they have enough pain and enough frustration. They feel like their marriage is at risk. They are not happy about how they're performing in their relationship with their kids or other relationship. They start to really question. They start to see that their values are not in alignment with who they want to be as a father, or as a parent. It doesn't matter. The question, and I guess excuse me, let me try that again. The strategy that you're recommending is to reprioritize the calendar and pre-block family time first and put that ahead of the work time. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or at least give it equal I was having, it was just sort of, it was the little rocks. It was turning out to be the little rocks for me because I wasn't even knowing that analogy. That's just what was happening. I was saying yes. And, and that's kind of the second part of this, was that as soon as I started prioritizing, so this would be like lesson 2. As soon as I started doing that, prioritizing family, scheduling, making it first, as you're saying, or at least giving it equal billing, it set up a tension, right? Because suddenly at that point, I was saying yes to every great opportunity. I was trying to grow a practice along with my partner at the time in Austin. I'm not having time to do the deep work, and and so saying yes to my family suddenly meant I can't keep these other commitments. And so the second thing was I had to learn to say no, and I wasn't a no guy. I was a yes and guy. And so I had to really kind of develop a whole new skill, which was just saying no to something that was meritorious and that was worth my time and that was a great wrong to be righted. And I had to say, yeah, but I don't have time for that. And that's still a difficult thing. And it's still something I have to continue to exercise that muscle, but trying to learn that and learn the value of doing that was critical to follow lesson number 1, which was prioritizing my family, stay good at all the other stuff that was so important to me.
So what other advice would you give lawyers who are looking to grow their practice? What other thoughts would you give them?
Um, especially younger lawyers, uh, embrace change, look forward to change. And this is really not so connected with maybe it is, but not so connected with the whole thing here of knowing yourself and examining yourself that we've been kind of talking about so far. But it's just become such an important mantra for me, and strength to sort of hone and play off of is that, I'm a medical malpractice specialist in Texas, which has suffered arguably and probably the most tort reform in that area. So we operate under a cap of $250,000 for non-economic damages, in addition to other, hurdles that must be jumped and pitfalls that we can fall into. People know how to find me. And so, in the way that change is very problematic in some ways, I found a way for it to work for us in my practice. And I just think that's a good way that's kind of set me on a model of how to look at change, and I think the analogy you and I talked about is sort of like whitewater rafting. You don't learn to be, and you don't get certified as a class 5 whitewater rafter unless you learned how to and can navigate the big old rocks out there. And it's probably way more fun in whitewater rafting to be shooting through the water part, and that's the white water you're rafting, but the rocks are there, and they're there, and that's why you got the class 5 certification. You get to call yourself a class 5 rafter, and so don't complain about the rocks. They're part of the whole deal. And that's just, and lately we've been dealing with AI, for example. And there's a great mantra that a company I was doing a seminar or at a seminar on injury board, and they said, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm going to probably paraphrase it, but they said, don't be afraid that AI is going to replace you. It might, but if you don't embrace AI and start using AI, you will be replaced by the people who do. So in other words, you can, there's no point in fearing change. You just have to understand it's going to happen. You might as well start working with it.